This is the second section in our series on astrology and the mystic path. And today we're going to be discussing the sun, Surya. We're going to go through each of the planets, and we're going to have the intention of covering ways to more fully integrate the planets into your life, but also how to learn to make them more conscious within you, because as we discussed in the previous talk, they're all aspects of yourself. And a lot of the difficulties that we have as we navigate this human experience is because we've not fully integrated or made conscious all the aspects of ourself, from the sun, clear through Saturn, and even including the nodes of the moon, even though the nodes of the moon really are influential through other planets more specifically. But with the sun, what do we need to consider about the sun? Well, many people who have difficulties with the sun, they lack some important skills in life, such as the ability to commit, the ability to stay steady and true, the ability to appreciate and understand their own inner inspiration in life. But as we'll see, many of these planets interrelate. For example, to follow one's inspiration, there's often a tie to Venus and the moon there, because it is Venus and moon which give us the ability to hear our heart, to hear what we need. But we'll speak about those two planets when we get there. So when it comes to the sun, we always have to focus on embodying the highest ideals of the sun. And for many people, this is a very difficult thing because the sun is a very mature planet. The sun is also very loyal to what is true. The sun is committed and steadfast. And so the sun doesn't make excuses for things. You'll know if you've got some difficulties with the sun, which many people do, depending on how many excuses you make for things within your life. Whether it's excuses for things that you don't do, or excuses for things that you avoid doing. The sun doesn't consider excuses. The sun is not concerned with comfort. The sun is concerned with what is true, what is necessary, what is right. That's how the sun shines through. And the sun is a manifestation of spirit in this world. Now, everything is a manifestation of spirit, that is true. But as far as the human experience goes, spinning around in the solar system on planet Earth, it is the sun which is the ultimate physical embodied representation of our inner light. And this is also one of the reasons why authentic yoga and meditation teachings aren't so prominent in the world, even if you turn on YouTube and you see all kinds of yogis talking about stuff. Because what the sun is interested in is the truth. And the truth of our human experience is that we are passing through it, that we are growing through it. But ultimately, once we've reached the level of human in the evolutionary process, it is important for us to turn to things like religion and spirituality so that we can rise above through the human experience and move on to the next stage of our existence. And this is one of the reasons why, for example, when we think about the sun as it relates to, say, the 12th house within a person's astrological chart, there's an emphasis there towards temples and churches. That's what the sun represents as it relates to the 12th house. So what do we have to do to help strengthen the sun? Well, on a very practical level, ideally, one of the very most important things we can start doing is having a regular schedule. Having a regular schedule, a routine. Many of you have probably heard the saying, it's as steady as the sun rising every day. The sun will always come up. And that's true. You can always count on the sun to rise, even if you can't see it. But you can count on it. You know that it's there. It's been doing that since before we can even imagine. So waking up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, eating on the same schedule, and following the phases of the sun. Depending on where you live in the world, it might be a little easier or harder to do that. But ideally, first and foremost, a regular, consistent schedule helps to start strengthening our sun, helps to start integrating our sun, particularly if we start living in accord with, say, sunset and sunrise, if possible, based on where we live. Eating at the same time. The sun represents the intelligence of the body, the intelligence of life itself. Because as we know, without the sun, and of course the moon, but without the sun, we would not have life on this planet, as far as we know. But the sun is the intelligence within our food, within our bodies, within the plants, within the animals, within the trees. So if we are living a life that is set up with a nice structured routine, particularly in line with the sun, we are aligning ourselves with that intelligence of the solar light and the intelligence of soul as it impacts the physical world. So routine is helpful. If you don't feel like you can do that or can't get on that, well, I would check the status of the sun within your chart. There's a difference between being wild and being free. Freedom, particularly from a yogic perspective, tends to occur when certain variables and formulas are followed as it relates to this human experience. So consistency, truth, and integrity with how you are in life, with your word. That doesn't simply mean that you don't tell lies. That means that you have integrity and you tell the truth about who you are. So for example, if you're around people and you decide that you want to live in such a way simply to please them, and you're not being true to yourself, you're not honoring and acknowledging what is true for you, well then there's a lack of integrity there. Loyalty is important. So for those individuals that are a very close group within your life, if you have close friends, hopefully you have one or two, loyalty and the ability to be trusted is important. Meaning if you tell them you're going to do something, like show up at a certain time, help them with something, or anything really. If you tell them you're going to do something, doing it, not making excuses like, oh, I was late because these 20 things happened, because usually if that's the case, that's always the case for you most of the time. And if you are having a sense of integrity, truth, and loyalty, and you do what you say you're going to do, well, of course, those occasional circumstances when you're not able to follow through, well, then people will understand, because they will recognize that strength of loyalty, integrity, and truth within you, and they will recognize that sometimes the human condition prevents us from doing certain things. But you have to be very cautious if you're one of those people that can't really be counted on. The sun can be counted on. If you don't know your inspiration, if you don't know your purpose and your path in life, one of the very best things you can start doing is simply being more accountable to other people. And in time, that will strengthen the capacity of the sun within your life such that that inspiration can finally be recognized. So, developing a regular routine, having integrity, being honest and truthful with who you are and what you are about and what people can expect from you. This will help to generate greater clarity of the sun within your life. Now, when it comes to inspiration, the sun is an inspired planet. Its gaze looks upward, so it looks to what is possible. It looks to what can be. It looks to what is beyond the current circumstance. It looks to greatness. That's why kings and queens and nobility, in a traditional way of thinking about them, they're always concerned about their progeny, their kingdom, what is going to last beyond them. So as far as the sun goes, developing a sense of inspiration or learning to follow your inspirations helps to make the sun more conscious in your life. Now, we have to be cautious there, because the sun as inspiration is not necessarily ego-driven inspiration. It's not the little personality that wants to rule the world, or the little personality that wants everyone to see, look at me. That's not what the sun does. The true inspiration of the sun, just like the true inspiration of nobility in a king or queen or someone in power, is that of having a responsibility to this world and others. Not such that you sacrifice yourself and drive yourself into the ground trying to please others, but simply recognizing that each of us have a particular responsibility, a particular role to play in this world, and it's not just for us. It's not just for us. So this does tie into a yogic approach. I was just reading an article that my Kriya Yoga teacher, Roy Eugene Davis, had written, and it dealt with essentially finding one's right place within the world. And he did not say you had to run off and do miraculous things. Maybe you will if that's really your right place in the world. But what he was describing is, as a yogi, and yoga is very solar because we're aiming to return to the spirit that the sun represents. As a yogi, it is important to participate in the world related to what your skills are, what your talents are. Everyone has some kind of skill, talent, or possibility that they can contribute something to the world. And we have to remember the sun shines for the sake of all. It's not picking and choosing what it's shining on. So your own particular inspiration, you may have a very simple skill that's not very well known. But that skill has a place within the whole. And you never know. Maybe that skill that you provide to the world allows other people to do other things which impact the world in a more profound way, but there's no separation there because they couldn't do it without your little bit of help. So with the sun and its inspiration and the activity it's supposed to fulfill in this world, sometimes we really have to step back and ask ourselves, honestly and truly, what are my skill sets? Not in some pipe dream, glorify the little ego skills, but really, what am I good at? So taking time to reflect, and that might even be making peace with what you are doing, that can help fulfill the inspiration of the sun, particularly if you are committed to it, dedicated to it. You take it seriously. You have the sense or imagine that that this wholeness of life is flowing through you and shining into the world through the skills and activities which you are able to share. So the sun is a very practical kind of planet. And as we'll see later on, the sun is the father of Saturn. So of course there are going to be similar kinds of experiences, not necessarily all of them, but the general theme and structure of things like structure, stability, not being concerned with comfort, doing what needs to be done. A great type of self-mantra that you can use for the sun and Saturn when it comes to your life is essentially, you don't do things because you like them. You do them because they're good for you and others. And if that seems off-putting to you, well, then maybe. But what you'll find is when you actually really get into that, meaning you've lived it for a while, you start to experience a sense of purpose. And you start to experience a sense of rightness. Because you're not thinking about, well, do I like it, do I not like it? What you're thinking about, what you're feeling is this the right, true thing to do? And the feeling of truth, the feeling of being in your proper place in the world is extremely personally fulfilling because it is aligned with the whole. So to think about this in other areas of life, some of the key words for the sun: loyalty, commitment, intelligence, integrity. Loyalty, commitment, intelligence, and integrity. This applies to every area of your life. If you can practice loyalty, commitment, intelligence, and integrity with your spouse, you are strengthening the sun. If you can practice it with your work, with the care of your body, all these things will help to increase the positive experiences of the sun within your life. And no matter what's going on within your birth chart with the sun, eventually you will transcend that, and it will move more fully into a sense of rightness, clarity, peace. It just feels like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here. That's the sense when the sun is perfectly attuned in your life. And if difficulties arise, even then, there's a sense of, no, I'm supposed to be here to participate in this, either to help others or to simply help the human experience evolve through these certain things. If there are good things occurring in your life, again, the sun shines on that as well. I appreciate this. This is a type of karma that is useful to take within and recognize as a gift from Source beyond the mind, body, and personality. The sun is very impersonal and ideally looks upon all equally, including oneself. So to move to this idea of ego, which usually falls under the area of the sun, the difficulties people have with ego are either too much ego, meaning they think that they're really more than they should be thinking about themselves, or the more common experience is that people have low esteem, low self-esteem, and they think too lowly of themselves. They don't honor and acknowledge the gift they have of being incarnated as a human in this life. And they don't take it seriously. They don't try to understand why they're here and what they're meant to be doing, which ultimately is evolving into this understanding and acceptance and appreciation of letting the sun's light, the soul's light, the pure, the radiant essence of your being to shine through in this world. So we have to take care of ourselves as well, with integrity, truth, intelligence, and so on. I'm sure you were looking for some kind of mystical formula to make the sun resonant within your experience. And I would really like to encourage you to review everything that's been discussed, because that is really what is going to make all the difference in your life related to the sun. If you can learn somehow, some way, to embody what we've discussed, whether you like it or not, you give it at least 6 months to a year, especially if it's hard for you. Because many people who have afflictions to the sun or difficulties with the sun, the things I've just described, they don't feel like they can do it at all. And the sun knows that anything is possible. So again, if you don't feel like you can do it or have the capacity to actualize those things, well, change your mental outlook, because the sun knows in one way or another all things are possible. It doesn't say, oh no, we can't do that. What the sun does say is, that is the thing to do, and so I'm going to do it. And even if I fail, I'm still doing it, because it is in the experience of it, fail or not, that greatness, true inner greatness occurs. And tying it back to the ideas of yoga practice, even in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the yogi is entitled to action only, not to the fruits of their action, which means if you have a role in this life and you know that is your place, whether you fail or succeed, as long as you walked towards it and did what needed to be done, you are embodying, again, that radiant essence of your being, because you don't know with your human mind if the attempts you made, even if you failed, you don't know what their real repercussions were throughout the rest of consciousness. It's not for your mind to know, but it is in the doing of it that is most important. And if you live life from that place of, I'm doing it because it is the inspired, the correct, the right thing to do, whether or not it works, if you're living your life in that way, you are not living your life from an egotistical standpoint, because from the egotistical standpoint, you only do things if they're going to work, right? Because you want to be successful. So again, considering this aspect of yoga, the yogi is entitled to action only, the things that arise that you are inspired to do, not to the fruits of their actions. So it doesn't matter what happens, as long as you do your best and you move forward. That's what the sun does. When it comes to meditations, well, as you can imagine, contemplating the sun, sitting in the sun, feeling its warmth. I remember many times being at Center for Spiritual Awareness and going to go visit, again, my meditation teacher, and it would be at times when there wasn't a retreat happening. It was just a private visit. I was staying for a few days or a week, and I would go meet with Mr. Davis. And in the morning, he would always be sitting in the sun in the lotus posture. Well, not always. I didn't catch him every single time, but many times I caught him sitting in the lotus posture, essentially taking in the sun. And he always had a tan of some sort. Even last time I saw him before his 88th birthday, he still had a tan, and he would do that in the winter time too, sit outside in the sun. So communing with the sun in that way can help this. Living in harmony with the sunset and sunrise, again, depending on where you live. Also in meditation, now you got to learn to meditate well first, but learning how to visualize and imagine the sun in your mind's eye and letting that absorb all of your awareness. Practicing in that way daily can help to strengthen the sun, but also it will empower your capacity to live and act in the ways we previously mentioned. So they go synergistically together. One helps and builds upon the other. That's a very profound meditation experience. If you can learn to see the sun, imagine it at first, and that might be all you do, but in time, you will eventually start to actually see a radiance within the space between your eyebrows with your eyes closed. And that is a way to attune to the sun as it flows into creation, theoretically. Yoga practices such as Surya Namaskar, sun salutations, wonderful ways to attune to the sun. Also, the Dietary mantra is a profound way to attune to the sun. However, what I would say, so that you get the full benefit and effect of it, is to find the pronunciation for the Dietary mantra, G-A-Y-A-T-R-I, Dietary mantra. But also look up the translation of it in your language, because understanding what it means as you chant it will give deeper insights into how the sun is meant to function in this world, related to your human experience. These things are extremely important. Eating vital fresh foods. If you can garden, wonderful. If you can eat fresh produce, fresh fruits, and fresh vegetables, that is a very easy way to bring more of that life force, that prana, into the body. Meditating in the sun and doing deep breathing as though you are circulating the light and life force of the sun through your body. All of this is extremely helpful. However, again, these things need to be approached on a schedule, on a routine, consistently. You make a commitment and you do it. So when it comes to meditative procedures, or when it comes to practicing sun salutations, when it comes to eating a diet that is full of fresh fruits and vegetables, don't just say, I'm going to do it every now and then. to strengthen the sun, you say, this is the change I'm making. And this is the change I'm making for the rest of my life. Because if you're not going to do it for the rest of your life, well, why do it in the first place? That's how the sun thinks and functions. When it comes to meditation and yoga, the sun doesn't say, well, I'll do it for a little bit to see how it works. The sun says, well, all right, I've read these texts, I've heard the discussions of these teachers, I know what great benefit this is in my life, so I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to live it fully. Because when you have that kind of commitment, when you're really able to give yourself fully to a practice, or even a commitment in relationship, or a commitment to an ideal, almost immediately the sun becomes radiant within you, and it will help you. That power of yourself, which is the sun, will help you to make these things possible and to get through the difficulties. Because just because you make the decision doesn't mean difficulties don't arise. The moment you make a decision to have integrity, to be committed, to be loyal, to practice intelligence in the way you interact with the world, to change your diet, to exercise practicing yoga, to take into account the Dietary mantra in your meditations. The moment you do that, all of the blocks that you have, the karmic blocks you have to do that, they're immediately going to pop up, and they're going to say, no, here are all the reasons why you can't do that. Here are all the excuses that you have inside which prevents your sun from shining through. And so when you make the commitment, you have to be ready for the fact that now you're going to be presented with all the little nagging things in your consciousness which have not allowed you to improve, to align yourself with the sun. Just like if you are surrounded by people who aren't very successful and they're pessimistic and they're not very happy, the moment you try to be happy or change your life or become a better person in the world, they all come around and say, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? You shouldn't be doing that. You understand what I'm saying. So you have to be ready that as you begin to do these things that will encourage the sun's proper manifestation and shining into your life, that in the beginning you may meet quite a lot of resistance, because those things are in you. That resistance is in you. That's what's kept you from doing this in the first place. And you have to choose and decide, I'm giving my time and attention to the development of this sun, and that is important. And the more you do that, these things will eventually, as you become stronger, fall away, such that they won't even bother you anymore once you have that strength and clarity of the sun's loyalty, intelligence, commitment, and so on within your life. So if you really want to improve the sun, that aspect of yourself which the sun represents, begin following these things, begin applying these things step by step. Don't try to do it all at once, because you will overwhelm yourself, and then you'll self-sabotage, and then you'll do nothing. So pick one or two things at a time and commit. And then after 6 months to a year, pick something else and commit, and build that life as kind of a way to prove that this light of the sun, the light of the soul, that radiant essence of your being can fully shine through, and see what happens. You're going to notice that your life probably radically changes in regards to how you live, how you feel, what you're doing, the people you spend time with. Of course, that's only if you don't already have a strong sun. You might find that you've already got these qualities. You already know what it means to be loyal, committed, dedicated, to not really care about comfort, to live for others in a helpful way. You may already have a steady meditation practice. You may already eat good foods and so on that are supportive of this life force and prana within your body. If that's the case, there may not be a whole lot of difference between now and later if you apply these things. But we all have room to tweak and improve and recommit and rededicate ourselves. So consider this as you work to manifesting the highest potential of the sun in your life. And that's why we're here, to manifest the highest potential and integrate all of the planets, because that is our true nature. the highest manifestation of each planet, when it's integrated, is a perfect reflection of our true, pure nature, as it's meant to be between the radiant essence of your being and the material world, the material creation, that kind of harmony there. It can be helpful to study more about the sun. So if you're into astrology, we'll learn about all the positive qualities of the sun. And then that will give you a very good list of, all right, well, what do I need to work on so that this can come through in my life, so that this becomes natural and real for me. I was actually reminded after starting this little series of the class, The Myth and Magic of Vedic Astrology, where I believe it's an audio course. It's been so long since I've done it, but it's a course where I go through each of the planets and the mythology of each planet, the myth and magic of astrology, and that's an excellent way to study how the planet really functions in consciousness by studying the mythology of it. So you can find all that on your own, but the Myth and Magic of Vedic Astrology is a great course that will help you understand all of the planets in this regard, probably a little more detailed than we're doing here. I'll put a link to that at the bottom of this video and videos that follow. So we'll conclude there. Om Sum Suryaya Namaha.